Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri and I am riding solo today. That's right, it is Solo Spiteri on this week's edition of the show. And the reason for that actually isn't that our schedules didn't line up, but I kind of enjoyed the solo show that I did a couple months ago. I believe I was ranking the intro bosses to all of the different Metroid games. And that was a really fun show to record, and I really wanted to go ahead and record some Silksong content this week, and Doom has not quite gotten around to Silksong yet, and everyone else that I usually kind of record with is kind of in the same boat. So I was like, you know what, let's go, let's do a solo show today. So I'm excited for this because what we did is we went ahead and we asked for your Silksong questions, and you guys delivered. There is a ton of Hollow Knight Silksong questions that you have asked and that I'm going to get into. I did mention last week that I finally, mercifully finished Silksong. I think I had about 65 hours all in all, so not in-game time. My in-game timer was about 54 hours, but it was about 65 all in all. Ended up with about 80% completion, and I did go and I did the third act, so I got the true ending as well. So wanted to just kind of like reflect on Silksong and answer some questions about like what my thoughts on the game, how the game maybe impacts like future Metroidvanias, or maybe more directly like future Metroid titles, because I really do think that there is a lot that the next Metroid game, particularly obviously the next 2D Metroid game, can learn from Silksong. And I think that Silksong has kind of raised the bar for the next 2D Metroid game. So excited to dive into all of those questions and get going with everything. Before we do, because I mean, hey, it's Solo Spiteri, but we still got to find time to plug. I did want to let everybody know that we have just finished recording new episodes of Middle Earth, the podcast, which are set to be released this month and will take us out for the rest of the year. So some really, really fun content. We had a lot of fun recording it. The wine was flowing. There was a debate about charcuterie boards, which is actually posted for free on the on the Patreon, patreon.com/spnet. So we did a lot of fun stuff. We talked about Tales of the Shire. Allison kind of went to bat for the game, so to speak. Not like fully defending it, but defending it enough. We talked about some things that the movies did better than the books, and that the books did better than the movies, which was kind of a spicy conversation at times. And we also talked about... well, actually, one of the episodes that we didn't get to, but is going to be released in the first half of 2026, or the first month rather. It's going to be our favorite moments from the Second Age. But the other thing that we did was a couple thought experiments, a couple what ifs. So what if this had happened differently during the course of Lord of the Rings? So if you're a big nerd, you're like me, you're a giant geek, this show is for you. Patreon.com/spnet does indeed have all of these episodes of Middle Earth, the podcast. It has got tons and tons of other stuff as well. We're actually getting ready to record the second episode of Gooey Plays Metroid, which my pal Gooey, you may know him from Flashback 64 or our Alien in Review series over on OmegaMetroid.com as well. He's playing Metroid really for the first time, so we're going through that together, and we're playing the game, we're playing the hits. And we're having a really fun time, actually, with that as well. Plus, there's a bunch of ROM hack reviews, the Great Metroid Area Ranking, a 2-year odyssey to determine the greatest Metroid area of them all. So that's over on the Patreon as well. And it's a really good time to get in on that action. So just wanted to do a quick plug for that. Now, let's get to these Silksong questions. So let's bring them up. Okay, so first question that we have here. Well, we'll start... we're going to kind of go between Blue Sky and Discord. This is from Mac. how would you feel about the Souls mechanics of loss and retrieval of currency on death appearing in a Metroid game? So I have to say, like, that I really don't love this mechanic in Silksong, in Hollow Knight, in Shovel Knight, and basically in like any of the games that I've played, that has something like this. And there's kind of like a similar thing in some of the Souls game as well. Like when you die, like the resources that you use will have been spent, and that you can't just so if you have like 3 of something, you face a boss, you use all 3 and you die, now you have none instead of 3 again to try again. So I really don't like that mechanic, and I wouldn't necessarily want it in Metroid. For the other reason too, that like there isn't currency in Metroid. So like that doesn't necessarily make sense or equate or just like flow the way that maybe it should in a Metroid game. So I'm not like super sold on the idea. Now I will say, like, if it's a good reason and it's done in storyline, like I can be sold on anything. But I do have to admit it's not necessarily my first choice in terms of mechanics to bring over from Silksong to Metroid. So thank you for the question though, Mac. Let's go to our next question, and I think that this is supposed to be facetious, but I'm going to answer it anyways, and earnestly I'm going to answer this. This is from our pal Elias Thompson, who you may remember from the Omega Metroid Marathon and of course Metroid HQ. And Elias asks, Silksong question, do you like Silksong? So I'm going to take this at its face here and say I think that Silksong was incredible. Like just an incredible game. Metroid Prime 4 is going to have to be like something else to knock off Silksong for my game of the year. Like Metroid Prime 4 is going to have to be a level like a caliber of Breath of the Wild or of God, I can't even think of another game, like maybe Elden Ring, you could say, like one of those games that was just like so otherworldly, like it was clear head and shoulder above, like the innovation met the gameplay, met the moment. Metroid Prime 4 is going to have to be that in order for it to be my game of the year over Silksong. And I never, ever thought I would be saying that going into 2025. Now, can Metroid Prime 4 do that and win game of the year for me, for what that's worth? Of course it can. And we've seen some of those changes that the game is making that makes it look like it is taking that really big, ambitious step. So I do have a lot of confidence in Metroid Prime 4, but I mean, just the quality of Silksong is like, my God, like, the amount of content, and not just content, but like good content. The map, I think is the best Metroidvania map I've ever seen. And I'm not saying that lightly. And I'm including like Symphony of the Night, maybe even Super Metroid in that category as well. Like the map in Silksong is sprawling, it's moody, it's atmospheric. It's got great combat, it's got more combat options for you. I don't know if we have a question about the difficulty or not, but you know, like I think it's difficult, but it's fair in a couple senses as well, and that's important. I think like there wasn't any shenanigans where I was facing a boss and like, you know, when you're facing a boss and like the health meter just starts to refill for no reason. Like there's none of that. So like it's a fair game with its difficulty. The music was great. I thought the story was great, and I thought Hornet was a great main character. So I think like Silksong is one of the best games I've played, honestly, in a long time. This would have been my game of the year probably last year. Would have been my game of the year probably the year before. Probably in 2022. Maybe it would have given Metroid Dread a run for its money in 2021, and maybe it would have even beat it. I don't know, but yeah, I earnestly thought that Silksong was just like so unbelievably incredible, worth the wait for sure. So yes, Elias, I like Silksong. Okay, next one is from Colonel Tyinlon. Hollow Knight and Silksong are often and justifiably called 2D Dark Souls. Given your love of Hollow Knight and Silksong, would you be willing to give the original Dark Souls a shot? Yeah, totally, I would. And you know what? I would also, and I've talked about this with Goo, I'd be willing to do Elden Ring again. I feel like for me, the thing that kind of like detracted from Elden Ring was, how do I say this without making it sound bad, but like the purposelessness of it. Like you would kind of like just go, like there was no like story necessarily driving you to any particular place. And I think with an open world game, that's tough because like you could literally just go like literally anywhere you want. And in like Breath of the Wild and in some other open world games like Horizon and with some of the Assassin's Creeds, like you can still do that, but you have your very clear objectives of where to go first. And I think that would have helped me with Elden Ring. The combat, I'm not very good at 3D combat like that. Like I was much more easily able to adapt to 2D Metroidvania combat. So I think Silksong for me was a bit more approachable or easier that way. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely be open to trying Dark Souls. Like I would probably try it on my Switch, and I heard that the Switch isn't necessarily like the best platform to do Dark Souls on, but I think I probably would still give it a shot if it came up, if it was like on sale, or I just had a lull in what I needed to play. Yeah, I definitely would. But I think I would retry Elden Ring first, and I would use a guide to get my way through, because the experience wasn't like necessarily my favorite with that game. Okay, next question is from Pikmineer. Shout out to SZ. The Pikmin short must have made you happy. That weird little Nintendo movie that we saw. What do you think Silksong did better than Hollow Knight? What do you think Hollow Knight did better in terms of gameplay specifically? So I think what I would say Hollow Knight did better is that, you know what? By the way, I should have said this at the start, but I'm going to say it now. There will be spoilers here, okay, for Silksong and for Hollow Knight. I'm gonna keep it as like plain Jane as I possibly can. And if we get to like a story question, I will like once again say like there will be spoilers so that you can fast forward a little bit here. But I don't know. This is like a borderline spoilery thing, so take that for what you will. But in Hollow Knight, you can get the Dream Nail eventually in the game. And what you can do is like set a specific spot on the map that you can warp back to. Like, can you imagine if that was in Silksong? Like some of the runbacks that you get after dying to a boss would be just like so much more bearable. I'm looking at you in the bile ducts there, okay? That was like a brutal run back doing that. So I think that is what I would say is my pick that I think Hollow Knight did better than Silksong. As for what Silksong does better than Hollow Knight, I mean, I'm tempted to say like most everything, and that's not a knock on Hollow Knight. That's just like a progression, I feel like, of how like sequels should work. Like I think that like Silksong had the addition of crests, it had all of the different tools, which felt much more fleshed out than they did in Hollow Knight with the charms. I feel like there was like a ton of extra side quests. I feel like the map was kind of bigger and more robust. I thought that the story was a little bit better as well, actually. So I think like most things I would say that Silksong did better than Hollow Knight, which again is not like a knock on Hollow Knight. We just talked about how fantastic that game is, but just the natural progression. Like if you ask me, what did Metroid Dread do better than Metroid Samus Returns? Like it should be an improvement. So, but I do miss that Dream Nail. I gotta say that was that was good in Hollow Knight, and much missed in Silksong. Okay, let's go over to Minneapolis King. So my boy Ryan has like a ton of questions here, so I'm gonna try and do most of them. I think we'll get to most of them. But first up is, do you want to see the Wish side mission Silksong introduced seen in a more Metroidvania and Metroid? I think that they were brilliant. So introduced in a Metroid game is this question. The answer is yes. Unequivocally yes. I think that like every Metroid game now from here on out should have extra side content. And I'm not talking about just get the expansions. I'm talking like full on like side quests or like optional side content, optional bosses that you can encounter, rewards that you can get. Like make getting the missile expansions interesting, right? Like what if and I love the Shine Spark puzzles to get those, but like instead of just like finding some of these somewhere, like let's hide them behind bosses, or let's hide some really impressive power-ups behind bosses, or let's have like the plasma beam or the wave beam. Let's have it so that you don't need those to beat the game, but like you can get them if you do this optional quest or something like that. So the answer is yes. And I mean, I think we all kind of expect Metroid Prime 4 to have side content in it. I would be stunned if it didn't. But I think like Metroid 6 and like 2D Metroid games, like I think like, yeah, like that is a necessity. I almost feel like, and Silksong again showed how this could work. Not that we needed it to show us how we could work. We've talked about how we would implement side quests and optional missions and stuff like that in Metroid games before on this podcast. But I think like Silksong was just like really proof of concept of like, this wouldn't be hard. It would give legs to this Metroid game, because inevitably whenever Metroid 6 comes out, you're going to have people comparing the price tag, which it's going to be the full retail price, to Silksong. And I just feel like you better have stuff in there to justify that price tag, because like we've seen what Silksong is like, almost like change the game for indie games, I feel like. So yes, I think that it absolutely should and must have side content. We'll see. Delta Bolster. Silksong has a lot of NPCs and quests. Some you will keep seeing along your journey. Some will die. Some give side quests and upgrades. Metroidvanias often want the player to feel lost and at least semi-alone. Thoughts on how Silksong balanced that? Yeah, you know what? I thought that Silksong, again, did like a really great job of like, you know, you still have these other characters, but the world still feels lonely. It feels broken. It feels oppressed. Kind of what you're looking for in a atmosphere for a Metroid game. So like listen, like when I was playing Metroid Prime 3 for the first time, I really liked that there were other characters that you could interact with as well. So I mean, I think there are times where you definitely want Samus to be isolated and alone, and you know, have that feeling of just like there's no one around you. But I do think that you can have a Metroid game that has like other characters in it that aren't trying to kill you, and that maybe do, if not offer you something, at least they're there, you know? Like I think we all remember seeing the Decoras and the Edakuns and how cool that was. It's like, hey, these guys aren't trying to eat me, like great. So I think that like, yeah, you can definitely have other characters and still like keep that atmosphere that I think people are worried about losing. I think like actually, as I've kind of like, you know, gotten a little bit more secure in my Metroid fandom, like I'm totally open to like more characters. Like I don't think that Samus necessarily has to be like alone all the time. Castlevania does it really well in their games. Like you'll often kind of like run into characters along the way in your adventure, and you talk for a little bit and you go your separate ways, and it's kind of nice. It kind of like, the other half of that too is like you run into these characters, and some of them you do end up fighting a little bit further down, but it kind of gives that a little bit of like stakes, I guess, because like now you're familiar with the character, you have a little bit of a rapport, maybe, you know, maybe they've been smack talking you, so now you have a little bit of something going, like a rivalry going. So I think that can work really well if they wanted to implement that in a future Metroid game. Okay, so back to Minneapolis King. What are your thoughts on having a hidden final act to a Metroid game that really ups the difficulty? Like, what if the Zero Suit portion of Zero Mission was locked behind extra tasks to get the true ending of the game? You know what? I'd have to see it. I mean, I don't mind it necessarily. I do worry. Like the thing about like Hollow Knight and Silksong is that like I think the majority of players that play these games do not experience the true ending, and you could maybe argue that for Castlevania as well, because Castlevania is famous for that. it's been doing that since 1997, where there's the ending and then there's the real ending. But I think like a lot of people might miss out on that real ending. So I guess I'll go back to my default answer that I said at the very beginning. I think like, I think like unless you want to do like multiple branching endings, maybe that could be one thing. But I'm not against it, but I'd want to see like a cool story reason to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm like super for it, but I'm not like necessarily against it either. If someone had the pitch to me about like, this is why it would make sense, this is what we can offer players, and this is how we're going to like, because I think that Silksong and even like Castlevania, when it does this, is like too vague in how it tells players like, this is how you get the real ending. So I think that like you have to be a little bit more direct with how you communicate that to players. And I think that if you can meet those criteria and pitch me a good reason why, I'm for it. So yeah, I wouldn't say no just on the principle of saying no. Okay, what is the number one? This is again from Minneapolis King. What is the number one thing you think Metroid 6 could learn from Silksong? Side content comes to mind immediately, and we touched on that already. So, but I'm going to reiterate it. Like, it has to have side content, and it has to. You know what? The biggest thing is that Metroid 6 needs to learn that like it's okay to have abilities hidden behind like optional bosses or optional areas or optional whatever. To have in the game to give it a little bit more legs to change up your playstyle. Because like in Metroid Dread, like which is one of my favorite Switch games, but like you get all of your power-ups and you progressively like stack and stack and stack and stack. And by the end of the game, my experience and your experience is pretty much the same thing. Whereas obviously in Silksong, there's all these different crests, there's all these different tools, there's all these different ways that you can kind of customize that gameplay style to your own personality or choices. So I think that Metroid 6 could learn that as well, and maybe it's like maybe the next game is like you have the Metroid suit and you can upgrade it. Maybe there's even like a skill tree or some sort of version of a skill tree. And I think that would be totally fine too, because like, again, it kind of encourages you to go back and replay the game in a different way, with a different look, with a different, payload of weapons and stuff like that. So I think that would be the other big thing that I would say that Silksong really could impress upon Metroid 6. And maybe just like, don't be afraid to be challenging either. Like, and I don't think that Metroid is like Metroid Dread. I think was challenging. Like Ravenbeak, I think we all got our butts whooped by him the first time. But eventually, like now you have people playing that game without taking a single hit, right? So I think like some bosses I think could be like a touch more challenging, even on like hard difficulty. I feel like. So I'd probably say that. I mean, there's like. There's probably like so many things, but those are the things that come to mind. Okay, what was your favorite boss fight of Silksong, Minneapolis King? Oh my god, there's like a gajillion boss fights in this game, dude. I legit don't even know. Seth, I thought Guardian Seth was a really fun boss fight, and one that you really had to slow down in order to do properly. I liked The Last Judge. That was really fun and very rewarding when I finally beat it. I think like take your pick of the lace fights. I thought that all of those were really great. There was the oh god, I can't remember the name now, but like the tree boss that kind of was like an old school Metroid boss where he like slammed his hands down trying to crush you was really fun. And I think the Cogwork dancers are probably a lot of people's answer, but that was definitely like a fun boss. And both versions I would say were really fun. I'm probably missing like a ton of them. There's like 40 some bosses in this game, so take your pick. But those ones are the ones that immediately kind of come to mind. Okay, next two last ones here from Minneapolis King, and then we'll move on. Number one, should Metroid go for longer games like 25 plus hours instead of the usual 10 to 15 first playthrough approach Dread and Samus Returns had? Yes. Yes, I think that. Yeah. Especially if you're going to charge full price for the game, which Nintendo obviously is. Doom and I have been talking about this recently, and like he's kind of been like, Nintendo has trained us all to say like it's about the quality, not the quantity, and obviously that's true, right? Like, do we want a 25-hour game that's like subpar when we could have a really polished, really great 15-hour experience? Of course not. But why can't we have a really great, really polished 25 to 30 hour 2D Metroid experience? Silksong literally just gave us that. And if an independent studio in Team Cherry can do that, why can the greatest game developers of all time in Nintendo, working with Mercury Steam, not do that, right? So that's how I feel about that. I feel like obviously you want the quality to be there, and it has to be there. But I think like in this case, it really isn't asking too much for both. I think that you can really say like, I want a long game and I want a great game, and those two things don't have to conflict with each other. Like, that's again probably the biggest takeaway that Silksong showed me for Metroid going forward is like, you can have a really long Metroidvania game. I would even argue like Silksong was too long at certain points. Like it probably could have wrapped up at 40 hours and been totally fine. Instead of like, I've seen people with over 100 hours on their initial playthrough in this game, which is just like absolutely bananas. So I think that like you can have a longer game and still have like a really quality experience. And I think that you should have that. Like, I think 2D Metroid deserves that. The areas in like the Emmy zones in Metroid Dread were really cool, and I'm sure that was like a technical feat, but I think I'm kind of just like, I just want like a big expansive world. Like, like you're playing Silksong, you're like, oh my god, it's an area, an entire area that I just found that is not required in the game for me to find. There's nothing pertinent to the end game. I could totally skip past this and nothing would matter in my playthrough, but here it is. I'm going to explore it. So I think like, yeah, we should be able to have that in the next Metroid game. So I hope that it comes to fruition. Okay, so last one from Ryan here. Traps and charms allow some minor customization in combat in the Hollow Knight games. Should Metroid do that with the weapons as well, beyond simple beam swapping like Prime Samus Returns? Yeah, I'm not against it. Like I said, I could see like a skill tree, or like something along those lines, or like maybe let's pitch a scenario here. So maybe in Metroid 6, you get your beams, okay? So you get the plasma beam, you've got the space jump, and you've got the speed booster. And let's just say that there's little gizmos that you can collect in the game, and there's 100 of them. And these gizmos are called like I think we talked about this before. Let's call them energy cells, okay? And so let's say that your skill tree, you can go and you can infuse the plasma beam with these energy cells to power it up. Almost like Hades, okay? Which is really kind of a weird one. But so like, let's say that you can pick from 3 upgrades to start off. Like your first upgrade for your plasma beam is like your plasma beam hits an enemy and then like chains off into 2 other nearby enemies or something like that. Or the speed booster, let's say that I don't know, your shine spark can be extended, or that you don't take damage on your shine spark when you use it, or that your space jump you can, I don't know, but like, you know what I mean, like something for each ability that does add a little bit of customization to them, or maybe it's just like a legit, just like a skill tree. I don't know, but I don't think that would be like the worst thing for Metroid to have like some different attributes that you can attribute to your weapons and your upgrades and stuff like that, which again is going to add to the replayability of Metroid 6. So yeah, I'm definitely not against that at all. So I would love to like to see different pitches on how you would do that. Like I'm sure like my pitch off the top of my head obviously has like some holes in it and whatnot, but I think that you could do it and that you could do it well in the context of this game. So yeah, I think that again, that's something that they could and probably that they should do for the next Metroid game, because it works well in other Metroidvanias, why wouldn't it work well in Metroid? And I guess if you really want to go there as well, so the charms and stuff like that, Castlevania just has it where you can just like literally equip different like charms or outfits or stuff like that. That might be a bridge too far, because obviously like your suit is such an important part of like your Metroid experience. But I mean, like maybe you could like customize your suit somehow, kind of like that. And what that looks like exactly, I don't really know. But I'm definitely open to. I'm open to the idea for sure. Next up is from Zach and Cheese 63. I have to say I love that username, Zach. Fantastic. Zach's got a couple questions here, so let's start from the very top. After playing through Silksong, one question kept reoccurring in my mind. In terms of difficulty, should a game be accessible to any person who wants to play it? While I really do appreciate the Silksong's old school, the difficulty is set in stone approach, I can't help but feel that the difficulty may pose a significant barrier to quite a large group of people. This is the $1 million talking point coming from this game, isn't it? There were some people in our server who were just like so upset that this game was too hard and too difficult for them, and were just like aghast that there was no like easy mode or assist mode or anything like that. And you know what? Like there is some merit in that. Like I think that there is some merit in saying, like, if you're making a game, the logic would say you should make it as accessible for everybody as you possibly can. I would say this, like, I feel like there is nothing wrong with Team Cherry, or honestly, like, honestly any developer, like, you know, making a game that is difficult, and that's the vision for the game, right? Like there's no easy mode in Elden Ring. There's no easy mode in Bloodborne. Like that, the game is what the game is, and the game doesn't apologize for it. And this game, Silksong, doesn't either. And like, I think that like for players, like sometimes we just get stuck with this idea in our heads that like all of these games have to be for everybody, and that they have to appeal to the widest possible audience imaginable. And I mean, again, like logic would say like that's probably a good idea, but when a developer comes out and they make a game, and this is their vision, to have a difficult game that requires skill and practice and discipline to achieve success in, I think that there is nothing wrong with that at all. Like we had someone on our server that was like dumping all over this game and saying like, oh, well, there weren't very many playtesters and that's why the game's difficulty is so out of whack. And it's just like, remove your head from where the sun don't shine. Like the game came out as intended. It was supposed to be this difficult, and that was the vision. Now on the other hand, if you're a player and you're playing this game and you're just like, this sucks, like this is too difficult, I keep on dying, I'm not having fun, that's totally legit, and you don't have to play the game, and that just means that the game is not for you. And maybe that means that the game ultimately isn't as successful as it could have been if it put in an easy mode. But I think that there's something to sticking to your vision and sticking to what you wanted that game to be. And obviously Team Cherry thought that we want this game to be challenging. Like, we want it to be punishing. We want it to be difficult for players. And I think that that's not like an insignificant part of why this game was so successful. And frankly, why the Souls games are so successful as well. Like, I think that like we're also afraid of these really difficult games, and these publishers are afraid of these difficult games. But there's like a lot of people out there that love this style of game, that love challenging their reflexes and getting that rush when you're having like the perfect boss fight. I think I described it on the show a couple weeks ago, where it's like when you fight a boss in Silksong, it's like playing Tetris. Sometimes when you're playing Tetris, you have this amazing run, and everything is going right, and it's like you can anticipate the moves before they even happen, and you're just like you're dialed in, you're in the zone, and you can apply that to like Dr. Mario, or you can apply it to if you're into racing games or fighting games. Like, it's just that feeling is so addicting, right? Like that is the high of these games, which makes the lows getting crushed when you don't have it, which is like most of the time, right? But when you don't have it, and you get just like wrecked by some of these bosses. That feeling when you're having the game of your life and things go your way and you finally beat this game, like that's what this game is all about, and that's what the difficulty is about. Like people don't hike up Mount Everest because it's easy, right? Like they do it as a challenge, and I think that games like Elden Ring and like Ninja Gaiden back in the day, like that is like that's that, right? Like that's the version, that's like the gaming equivalent of hiking up Everest, to challenge yourself, to push yourself, to experience that high. So like, could the game have been more easy and more accessible and more, I don't know, like easier, I guess? Yeah, definitely it could have. And does it pose a barrier to a large group of people? Yeah, it might. It might. Now that being said, I mean, Hollow Knight sold like 15 million copies. Elden Ring has, I don't even know how much Elden Ring has sold, but it's probably a lot. Dark Souls has sold a lot. And Silksong is doing just fine. It's again like a couple million copies in already in like a month or two. So I don't know what that means, but I know that there is an audience for games that are difficult. I know that there is like certain players that won't mesh with the difficulty, and that's totally fine, and they would be right. And I think it's fair of them to say, like, this game I did not enjoy and it's not for me. But again, like I think that we're missing the point where like not every game that's ever released has to be for everybody. And I think that's the final I think that's the final thing about the difficulty conversation, because like I've seen a lot of people talk about that was, I mean, easily the biggest talking point of Silksong when it came out, and that's kind of where I land on it. I heard like some people were like, well, the game doesn't respect my time because it's so difficult, and it's like, well, you know what, don't play it. Like that's the answer, man. Like if the game's not for you and you think that a video game isn't respecting your time, you have the option to turn the power off, brother. Like you know what, don't play anything you don't like, and if you don't like it, I think that's totally legit. But I thought that was one of the silliest things that I'd heard in a long time when I heard that. So yeah, more difficulty discourse, I'm sure is coming, but that's my kind of thoughts on those types of games. And by the way, Elden Ring famously was not for me. Like I was not enjoying it. I wasn't having fun. I was frustrated, so I just stopped. And I was like, I don't think that like there was a lot about this game that I really like, and that was okay. Like it didn't have to be for me, and obviously it didn't need to be for me because the game was incredibly successful, and so many people love it, and I think that's great. So there's my rant about the difficulty in Silksong. Let's move on to Zach and Cheese's next couple questions here. I suppose I'm just a little surprised that there's not an easy mode in this game for people who would otherwise love the world, lore, art style, etc. I guess that's not a... maybe this is actually just one big question, actually, so I'll read the rest of the context. I can't tell you the number of times I beat a boss and thought, wow, that was an amazing boss. Too bad there are people out there who may never be able to beat this. I want to reiterate that this game is incredible and I love every piece of it, but I also think the way someone else chooses to enjoy a game, such as with an easy mode, has no bearing on my enjoyment of it whatsoever. As such, I'm surprised there aren't more options for those people. Sorry, I thought you had 4 questions, not the one big one there. I mean, yeah, sure. Like, there probably is a lot of people out there that would enjoy the lore and would enjoy the world and stuff like that. But I mean, like at the end of the day, it is what it is. Like the Team Cherry, they had a vision, and this was their vision. And you can look back and say, like, if this game bombs and it doesn't sell and it is reviewed horribly, then like obviously their vision didn't connect with a wider audience. But I just think you look at this and you look at Hollow Knight, like the Hollow Knight is sold almost more than the entire Metroid series, for context. And with Silksong, these two games are easily going to outsell the entire Metroid franchise. Now granted, like price point is certainly a big factor in that, but the point is that like there's clearly an audience that is connecting and that is wanting these games for what they are. And the reviews, I mean, have been stellar. Like Silksong is is just like it's at like 90 something percent on Metacritic. So like I understand what you're saying, and I think that there's merit to what you're saying, and to that point of view. But I think at like the other point of view is like, as creators of like, you know, of art, of music, of a podcast, right? Like we have a certain vision that we want our product that we're creating to be, or that we want our art that we're creating to be. And that doesn't necessarily have to be for everybody. I have famously on this podcast, on the Zelda cast, on Virtual Theater, I have famously said and kind of spoken out about some things that I believe in, and said like, if that doesn't like align with what you believe in, maybe this isn't the podcast for you, because I'm not trying to appeal to that type of audience. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like I think there's nothing wrong with just sticking true to what your vision is. Like could you have something that is like a broad appeal for everybody? Yeah, I mean, you definitely could, but like, this is the analogy that I used. Like that kind of reminds me of like going to McDonald's. You know, I love McDonald's. I love McDonald's, man, especially after a night of drinking. And like, but at the same time, like sometimes maybe you want sushi, and you know what? Maybe some people just don't like sushi. They don't like the texture. They don't like whatever it is. That's okay. We don't have to go for dinner this night. You know, we can go to dinner next week and go back to McDonald's or somewhere where everybody likes. But like, my point is that like the game is obviously trying to appeal to a certain audience that likes the kind of challenge that we talked about, that likes that adrenaline high, and I think that Team Cherry has ultimately been proven. You know, they've reaped the rewards for staying true to their vision, because like, I think if there was difficulty settings in this game, does it lose something? I don't know. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. But I think like for me, I know that when I finished this game, and I'm not good at video games. Like I'm not good at all. I'm actually playing Hades 2 right now, and I'm playing it on God mode because I'm not very good at it. And so like, do I wish that other people could have their version of a God mode in Silksong? Maybe, yeah, but I do know that like I beat the game, and I just felt like so accomplished and so like proud of myself for slugging it through this game and making it till the end. And I think like that's kind of the reward and the draw of playing a game like this. Like yes, it's cool to have like really easy and accessible games, but like I don't know, like I think you lose something from the spirit of this game and this harsh world by just like having that. So you know what, you're not wrong, Zach. I think it's a fair point to make, but that's not what Team Cherry chose, and I think that it certainly hasn't negatively impacted or affected them in any discernible way. So yeah, long answer to your question. Okay, this is from my pal Josh W. My main question that I have for people is, the speechless demeanor of the nameless knight in Hollow Knight creates a mystique and a void, pun intended, to fill identity into between the player and character. Do you feel like Silksong did a good job at making up for that lack of mystique with the character and identity of Hornet? That's a great question, and I think your answer is going to vary from person to person. I will say this. I really liked playing as Hornet in this game. I liked playing as Hornet more than I enjoyed playing as the Knight, actually. And I don't mind like a speechless kind of like avatar that you play as. I think that can be done well, but I would preface my answer with like, generally I think I prefer to play as like a character, you know, like not just like someone that you can like a silent protagonist type of thing. So I thought that Hornet was like really great. Like she was calm and self-assured, and just had a very distinct way of speaking about her that I thought it was like almost regal to a sense. I thought that that added a lot to the story, and especially scenes where like, because like the downside of a character like the Knight is that you don't ever get, like, any introspectiveness, or like, you never really know what they're thinking. that much. And I guess you could say the same thing about Metroid too. Like, I've kind of flip-flopped a little bit on if I like the scenes in Metroid Fusion where Samus is like talking to Adam. And I really like the scenes where she's on the elevator going down, and you have those brief moments where she's contemplating, reflecting, whatever. And I think that like that kind of helps your characters a little bit and convey like what they're about to the audience, or like what their motivations are and whatnot. So I think if like in Silksong, if you were playing as the knight, I don't know that you have that connection to Lace that you have with that Hornet builds. Or like some of the other connections that you build throughout like with Sir Gregory. Oh my God, Sir Gregory, where you kind of like build those connections to players, and I just don't know if that works the same way if you have like a non-speaking, like playable avatar character. I think like the Hollow, like the Knight worked well for Hollow Knight and what that was about with how it tied into the story, but I'm glad that they didn't do that with Silksong. And I would actually be like very, very open to playing another game as Hornet, because I thought that she was like a great lead with a great kind of like personality, and I thought that they walked a really good line too, where like it was never too much with her dialogue or everything like that. It was never overbearing, but I feel like you got to know Hornet as well, so like you felt like you were connected to this character. So I thought that they did a really good job, and I would actually like to see like more of Samus doing some of these like introspective moments and stuff like that. Like I feel like in Metroid Dread, if there was a couple of moments where Samus is maybe reflecting on meeting Quiet Robe, like that should be a pretty big moment. And I thought they did a good job of like getting that across in game with like just the physicality and Samus's actions and stuff like that. But if there was like an extra scene where she is quietly just like contemplating that, I think that'd be great. Or like a scene where even she's just like, what's up with Adam? Like, he seems a little bit weird, maybe foreshadow that a little bit, or go run back and pick your Metroid game. And like I feel like you can have those moments where you're just like, oh, like this is what Samus is thinking, this is what's on her mind. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Obviously the writing has to be up to par, which is never been Nintendo's strongest suit, which is probably why we're all a little bit gun shy towards having that, especially after Metroid Other M, and I get it. But I don't think that the idea is like terrible. Like I honestly, the biggest moment in Metroid Dread for me, I was cheering when Samus said like, in Chozo, we'll finish this, to Quiet Robe. Like, that was so awesome. So I think like more moments like that where you have like Samus being Samus, because I think we're past the point where Samus is like your kind of playable avatar. And I made this argument about Link on The Legend of Zelda as well, right before Breath of the Wild was coming out. Like, there was a time where Link was definitely your playable avatar character, but like now, we're almost 40 years into these franchises with Metroid and Zelda. Like, these characters, even if they don't speak, like they are their characters. Like, they have their personality traits and quirks and things that we know that they do. And I think like having dialogue, like especially for Samus, really doesn't take away from that as well. So yeah, I thought that that Hornet was great, and I would love to see more of Hornet going forward. Okay, let's keep going here. One more from Minneapolis King. Y'all play Hollow Knight / Silksong with the joystick or D-pad? I almost exclusively play Metroidvanias with the D-pad controls if given the option. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I do D-pad every time that I can. I will say this, okay? I gotta tell you a story. So I'm playing Silksong, and I'm playing handheld because everyone knows my dog just had surgery, so we've been sequestered in our living room, and we're we got a little camp going on there. We're sleeping with him or whatever. So my TV and stuff is all downstairs. So I'm playing like 99% handheld mode for the most part. And man, my Joy-Cons on my Switch 2, it's driving me crazy. It still does this. They keep on disconnecting, like in the middle of play, and it'll do it like 5 times in 1 minute. I don't know what's going on. I'm ready to throw this thing out the window. But dude, I was fighting some bosses, and like I'm already not good at Silksong. Okay, like I don't need any help to get my ass beat by some bosses. And my controller keeps on disconnecting and disconnecting and disconnecting. And like it pauses when it disconnects, right? And then you have to press L and R and then A. But like it takes you out of the moment. And like I always got hit after, and I was going nuts. And I was just like, oh my God, I did like the barbarian scream at one point, and it was so frustrating. So I wanted to get that off my chest. I didn't know where else to put that here, but it seemed appropriate with the D-pad there. So yeah, I don't know. I have a really hard time using like the joystick for 2D games. Pretty much any game almost I will use a D-pad instead of a joystick if I can. So yeah, I'm with you, brother. Okay, Stalord the Great asks, you know what? Some of these questions we've already asked, so let's just go to this one. What did you like more in Silksong than Hollow Knight? So we kind of touched on that already. Pretty much almost everything, I would say. I thought was kind of an improvement over Hollow Knight, and again, not to take away from Hollow Knight, like an absolutely incredible game. Just the progression of sequels, I think, is natural. That Silksong is a lot better than Hollow Knight was. So I don't think that is anything to be ashamed of if you're Hollow Knight. Okay, so let's go answer one last one here. This is from Quantum Dog. I love this name. As someone, Andy, who famously trashes on Elden Ring because he's bad at it, no offense. You know what? A little offense taken. And I don't think I trashed on it. I just said, like, I do remember I did an episode of the Zelda Cast where they were, one of the questions was like, what can Tears of the Kingdom learn from Elden Ring? And I said nothing. Because I don't think that anything in Elden Ring necessarily translates that well to Zelda. And I didn't get like super far, so like maybe that's not a fair statement. But I got like 30 hours into Elden Ring. So like I felt like confident in saying that, and I think I still would say that. But anyways, as someone who famously trashes, not true, on Elden Ring because he's bad at it, I was surprised to hear that you had no problem with Silksong. How does Silksong's difficulty and design compare to other hard games? For me, Silksong is definitely easier game, but Elden Ring feels more friendly to beginners. Unlike Silksong, it doesn't have boss runbacks and also has a whole open world of content for players to engage with if they can't beat a boss. So, like, fair question. And I think you're not quite comparing, like, apples to oranges, but we can't sit here at the same time and say that, like, a 2D Metroidvania is the same as an open world game. I think like the big difference between the two and why I was able to enjoy Silksong more is that it feels like there was purpose to what I was doing in Silksong, even if I was doing something optional or like side content or something like that. Where to me, like Elden Ring was just kind of like, okay, like just go do in this world, like just go figure some stuff out, and which can be fun. It definitely can be fun, but like I was saying earlier, like I feel like I kind of do want like there's a fine line when you're playing an open world game between like having like a guided story focused path and having like the freedom to explore, and I think like there's a lot of open world games where you can do both. Like Horizon is a really good example of that. Ghosts of God, whatever that game is called, is another really good one. I think like the problem for me that I experienced with Elden Ring is like, number one, I wasn't as good at 3D combat as 2D combat, and I felt like Elden Ring for me played really slow and really sluggishly, which I didn't necessarily love. Even in Silksong, like my biggest thing, like the biggest challenge that I had with like bosses and stuff like that is I need to slow myself down when I'm fighting these bosses, because like otherwise I go too fast and I make mistakes, and I'm the type of player that I will try and get in 3 hits and take a risk of getting a hit myself versus like getting in 1 hit and being completely safe and waiting for my next opening to get back and get another hit. So that's kind of like my Achilles heel when I'm playing a game like Silksong. Um, so for Elden Ring, I just like, I kind of thought that like the parrying wasn't as fun. I thought that the weapon combat was kind of slow and sluggish, and I felt that way about Bloodborne as well. Um, and I mean, some of it could just, like, again, like, some of it just might be a me skill problem, and like I think that's fine. Like, that game doesn't have to be for me. There was some stuff I enjoyed in Elden Ring, and I would be open to playing it again, but yeah, I don't know. I think, like, for an open world game like that, and I felt this way in Bloodborne too. It's just, the game kind of starts, and there's no narrative, there's no, like, inciting incident, there's no I guess I'm just like, who am I? What am I doing? What's my purpose? I know I'm supposed to be looking for this Elden Ring, but, like, I kind of felt like, for me, I was missing something that got me connected to the game and into the world. The world was, like, really cool to look at, and I explored a lot of it. But, like, that kind of feeling of just, like, I wasn't super connected with my settings, and I wasn't like, super connected with my character, and frankly, like, I didn't love the combat. That kind of, for me, when I ran into a really difficult boss, like, when I ran into a difficult boss in Silksong, I really love the world. I love the gameplay. I have that hunger and motivation to overcome and explore and get past my frustration and get to that moment where I'm just like, aha, yes, I beat this boss. Where for Silksong, or for Elden Ring, excuse me, I just don't know if that moment, like, truly ever came for me, because I was like, you know what, this is okay, but is it worth, like, getting this frustrated about? I don't think so. So I don't know, like, for me, like, I think like, Silksong's difficulty, I also feel like is much overblown, personally speaking, like, especially after playing Hollow Knight, because I played Hollow Knight right before playing Silksong. The ability to heal in Silksong is so much better and easier than it is in Hollow Knight. Like, yes, you take more damage. You typically take 2 masks worth of damage in Silksong, but you heal for 3. Like, I thought that was a really fair trade-off for me. So I really enjoyed that about Silksong. I mean, Silksong was definitely difficult, but again, I thought it was fair. Like, and I guess it's like, you know, you talk about how does Silksong's difficulty design compare to other hard games. Celeste, yeah, that's a really hard game. But it's hard in a different way. It's hard platforming wise, and, like, you have to make all these, like, really precise, incredibly intricate jumps in order to get to where you need to be. And, like, I love that. Like, that's my kind of hard game. And I feel like Silksong is kind of a combination of both. Like, there's definitely some hard platforming, and there's definitely some hard combat, where I feel like for me, like, the Souls games are just, like, they're just kind of hard combat, and other than that, like, you're just kind of, like, trudging around in this world, which I like. It looks nice. I felt this way especially in Bloodborne, but, like, I was like, what is the point to what I'm doing? Like, that I don't know, and, like, that didn't motivate me. And so, like, you would have really hard combat, you would slowly kind of slug around until the next really hard combat, and I was like, yeah, this is a little bit boring to me. Elden Ring certainly was nice in that you could go and see, like, all this open world and stuff like that, but I mean, I can't say that I thought, like, there was a ton of, like, stuff to do in that open world, which I think is funny, because, like, people will critique Breath of the Wild for that, but in Breath of the Wild, like, I mean, there's all these shrines which power you up, there's all these Korok seeds if you so choose, there's all, like, you could go and find weapons, like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that you can do in Breath of the Wild to pass the time if you're stuck on something. Whereas Elden Ring, I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, like, there's just kind of, I guess there's stuff, but, like, is it stuff I want to do? I don't know. I don't know if it was. So I'm open to playing Elden Ring again. I don't think it's fair to say I trashed on it, though. Maybe I was more hard on it after my playthrough, because I was frustrated that I had put in, like, 30 hours and felt like I came away with nothing. Maybe, but I mean, I don't think so. And again, like, that game doesn't have to be for me. Like, that's totally okay for that game to stick to its vision and to be what it wanted to be. And obviously it connected with so many people. And so From Software was rewarded by sticking to their vision with multiple Game of the Year, awards and critically acclaimed games and sales and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay that it wasn't for me. But hey, you know what? Maybe I'll give it another. Maybe I'll give it another try. But I do take offense to being bad at it, even though I am bad at it. Only I can say that, okay? Not you. So take that. All right. That's it. That's all that we got for Hollow Knight Silksong questions. So this isn't an official inspired by Metroid show on Silksong. We're going to do that at some point. Maybe some point in the near future. I don't know. Doom, I don't think is going to be caught up on that at any point. So maybe we'll have to get some other people in on this official episode. And we might have to break it down into 2 parts as well, just like we did with Hollow Knight. But I just think like this game was so impressive and so great. And like, just like what a great achievement. And I really think like this raises the bar for Metroidvanias of all sorts, including Metroid, including Castlevania. And I think this really raises the bar for like independent games. And it's funny, like the amount of quality independent games coming out this year from Claire, whatever that game is called, Expedition 33 or whatever the hell it is. I want to play that game, actually. I've heard I'd really like it. But that game, to Hades 2, to Silksong, to Blueprint, like there is just like so many unbelievable indie games. But I feel like this is just like something else. Like Silksong was just like this game, man, was something else. So very, very strong Game of the Year contender here. We'll see what Metroid Prime 4 can do to try and contend with Silksong. But I thought this was one of the best games I've played in a long time. So very, very excited to talk some more about Silksong in the coming weeks and months. And thank you to everybody that submitted a question and for hanging out with Solo Spiteri today. Hopefully you're not sick of my voice yet after an hour of me just talking about Silksong and ranting about difficulty. So thank you for sticking with me. All right, my friends. Well, that is going to do it for us. So I do have a couple things that I want to say before we get out of here. First and foremost, go and give us a follow, a subscription, a like, a review, a rating, wherever you get your podcast. Tell your friends about the Omega Metroid podcast. We do a show every single week, every Wednesday, if you can believe it, in the world of Metroid. So we're getting ready for Metroid Prime 4. We are like 7 weeks away, give or take. Check out OmegaMetroid.com for all of your latest Metroid Prime 4 news. We've also got walkthroughs, we've got guides, we've got maps, we've got so much stuff there if you're a Metroid fan. So go and check it out, OmegaMetroid.com. Head on over to our YouTube page too, by the way. You can see these videos and our smiling faces as we do these podcasts every single week. And as mentioned at the very beginning, we do have a Patreon. So patreon.com/SPNet. We've got the Great Metroid Area ranking there, ROM hack reviews. If you're a Zelda fan, we've got tons of Zelda stuff there, including for $1, the entire Zelda cartoon library that has been reviewed by me and Gooey. And as well as Gooey Plays Metroid, the series where my friend Gooey is playing Metroid for the first time. So we're starting off with Nestroid now. I think we're going to move to Other M after that. So lots and lots of fun stuff over there. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my fellow Canadians out there. Hopefully everyone is having a nice time if you choose to celebrate with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and you're getting some good food today. So thank you so much, everybody. We will be back here next week. Till then, bye.